Name is?
Yeah, Steve Dorsey from CBS News.
Hi, Steve.
Just a quick change in topic. Can you tell us about the incidents that have been going on in Havana affecting U.S. government workers there?
Yes. So we are certainly aware of what has happened there. Give me 1 second here. And that's why we got a little bit of a late start getting some recent updates for you on this. So some U.S. government personnel who were working at our embassy in Havana, Cuba, on official duty, so they were there working on behalf of the U.S. Embassy there. They've reported some incidents which have caused a variety of physical symptoms. I'm not going to be able to give you a ton of information about this today, but I'll tell you what we do have that we can provide so far. We don't have any definitive answers about the source or the cause of what we consider to be incidents. We can tell you that on May 23rd, the State Department took further action. We asked 2 officials who were accredited at the Embassy of Cuba in the United States to depart the United States. Those 2 individuals have departed the United States. We take the situation very seriously. One of the things we talk about here often is that the safety and security of American citizens at home and abroad is our top priority. We're taking that situation seriously, and it's under investigation right now.
If the U.S. doesn't have a definitive answer on the cause or source of the incidents, why did it ask those 2 Cuban embassy officials to depart the U.S.?
Look, some of our people have had the option of leaving Cuba as a result for medical reasons.
How many?
I can't tell you the exact number of that, but I can.
What was it, in the tens, dozens?
I'm not going to characterize it. I do not believe it was that large. Certainly not that large. But we had to bring some Americans home, or some Americans chose to come home as a result of that. And as a result of that, we've asked 2 Cubans to leave the United States, and they have.
In other words, this is a reciprocity thing.
I'm not going to call it as such, but we asked 2 people to go home.
And how long has this been going on for?
So we first heard about these incidents back in late 2016.
And who is leading the investigation?
The U.S. government is investigating this. I'm not going to get into it prior to that. I'm not going to get into it. You know which law enforcement agencies we have that would be concerned about this. The State Department is involved, but you could check with others as well.
And just real quickly, was it just State Department employees or other employees from other government agencies?
So these were, my understanding is that it has only affected State Department employees. This has not affected any private U.S. citizens down there. We take this very seriously. Look. This incident, and that's what we're calling it. We don't know exactly what.
Since 2016, you don't know what this incident is?
What this requires is providing medical examinations to these people. Initially, when they started reporting what I will just call symptoms, it took time to figure out what it was, and this is still ongoing. So we're monitoring it. We provide medical care and concern to those who believe that they have been affected by it, and we take this extremely seriously.
So just getting back to my question on reciprocity, and I know you don't want to use the word, but were the 2 Cubans told or asked to leave because of a similar or proportional drawdown in the U.S. staff in Havana because of the symptoms?
I'm not going to characterize it that way at all. I can only tell you that 2 were asked to leave, and they did.
Yeah, but
because what you're trying to do is you're trying to draw an equivalency. You're trying to say, 2 guys were asked to go home, and therefore X number of Americans were brought home. And I'm just not going to make that comparison.
I'm not saying there's a direct proportion, although maybe the Russians might disagree on that. But the reason that the 2 left is because you had to reduce your staff, or have the people who left Havana been replaced?
I'm not sure if our people who've left Havana have been replaced. I know that we've given our employees there a chance to come home if they would like to, and they have jobs here. Let me just mention one other thing about this. The Cuban government has a responsibility and an obligation under the Geneva Convention to protect our diplomats. So that is part of the reason why this is such a major concern of ours, why we take this so seriously, and in addition to the protection and security of Americans. I hope I've answered your question. Okay, hold on. Anything else on Cuba?
Can you just give us a sense of, are these medical problems ongoing, or was this a short-term thing?
And you've heard me say this here before. When we talk about medical issues about Americans, we don't get into it. So I can just tell you that it is a cause of great concern for us. It's caused a variety of physical symptoms in these American citizens who work for the U.S. government. We take those incidents very seriously, and there is an investigation currently underway.
I mean, can you say, are they life-threatening? I mean, the physical symptom wasn't death, was it?
No, it was not. It was not. Not
And-
life.
and not life-threatening.
Not life-threatening, and I'll leave it at that. Anything else on Cuba? Anything else on Cuba? We're done with Cuba, correct? Okay. Go to Cuba. Okay, go right ahead. Hi, how are you?
So, do you have any update, I know it's just recent, on the diplomats and the hearing loss issue, but moreover, does the State Department have any plans for reversing the Obama administration's efforts to diplomatic ties with Cuba? In other words, reversing the, restoring them, reversing that action?
So I don't have any information on that particular part for you. You mentioned particular medical ailments. That is nothing that I can confirm. I've certainly seen that report out in the news media. I hope that those reports would not come from any federal officials. We will not confirm the health status of any Americans, whether they're in Cuba, back here at home, or elsewhere. What I can tell you is that these were U.S. government personnel who were in Cuba, in Havana, on official duty on behalf of the U.S. government. We consider these to be incidents because we still are trying to determine the actual cause of their situation. They have had a variety of physical symptoms. That's as far as I can go in describing that. We just don't have the definitive answers yet. This is an active investigation, and that investigation is ongoing at this time.
But what about the overall diplomatic relationship between Cuba and the United States? Are there any plans to change what the Obama administration put into place?
You know, this is a situation that we're still assessing. When I say an active investigation is underway, in part what that means is we don't know exactly where this came from. Okay, we can't blame any one individual or a country at this point yet. An investigation is underway. We take that very seriously. This is a U.S. government investigation that is taking place. We've spoken extensively to the Cubans about this. As you know, we had 2 of their Cuban diplomats leave back in late May or so. And the reason that we had them leave is because we said that this is the agreement that the United States has with Cuba, and that is that they are responsible for the safety and security of our diplomats while our diplomats are serving in that country. Our Americans were not safe. They were not secure, obviously, because something has happened to them. We take that very seriously. The safety and security of Americans at home and abroad is our top issue. We'll continue to investigate that.
Global Affairs
Okay?
Canada.
Hold on.
Canada.
Hold on. Are you done, ma'am?
Yes, thank you
Okay,
so much.
thank you.
Okay, Global Affairs Canada, as you might know by now, says its diplomats have been experiencing the same unusual symptoms. And it's working with the U.S. and Cuba to investigate. Is the U.S. working with any other country to investigate these incidents?
I won't comment on anything related to another country. I can't confirm that. I can only talk about the American piece of it.
And let me just ask you about Congress. This news seemed to catch several key lawmakers in Congress off guard that deal with Cuba. And at least one U.S. senator has requested a classified briefing from the State Department. Mm-hmm. Why hasn't the State Department, if it cares so much about what's going on with its diplomats, alerted Congress?
There have been conversations that have been going on between the interagencies, and I assume, and that means Congress as well. So Congress, certain folks have been, I can't tell you exactly who, I don't know off the top of my head, but have been made aware of this. This is not something that, certain members of Congress are learning about for the first time.
Let me ask you this. Why are we just learning about this? These 2 Cuban diplomats left on May the 23rd. This has been going on at least 8 or 9 months, and now we're just learning about this? Why?
As a reporter, you're going to ask me that question? I mean, goodness, you could have been down there reporting on this. Look, no, the honest question is, and the real answer to this is, people started experiencing ailments in late 2016, okay? And think about it. When you have an ailment, you don't always know exactly what's causing it, okay? You have that ailment, you maybe decide to put it off for a while, get medical treatment, maybe not, okay? Some of these things take time to investigate. In particular, ones that people aren't certain what has caused them. So this takes time to figure out. That is why I say an investigation is ongoing. We have provided medical care and medical treatment and screening to our Americans who have asked for that. Some people have been brought home as a result. So I kind of take issue with the tone of your question as though we don't care about this. I think we've been clear in our responsibility and let me finish, and our concern about Americans who are serving on behalf of the U.S. government in other
Do
countries.
you think those diplomats that have been experiencing these symptoms are satisfied with the response they've gotten from the State Department?
I don't know the answer to that.
Heather, can I ask you two
Yes.
semi-related? One, without getting into any specific country, names of other countries that might have had diplomats involved, are you aware of that diplomats from other countries had suffered similar physical
I have seen
symptoms?
reports, and that's all I can say about that.
Okay, but so you don't, so you're unable to say whether or not this was only something that happened to Americans.
I just can't confirm here from a U.S. government post that other countries may have or have not had the same issue happen to them. I can only speak to what Americans have faced.
Can we go to Syria?
Okay, are we to Cuba? Hi. Hey.
You seem to leave open the possibility that another country is involved in some of
I
these-
didn't. I didn't. This guy right here next to you did.
Sorry, apologies. Not that someone else has been attacked, but that they seem to be the possibility of a third country being involved in the attacks themselves, as in it might not be the Cubans who are behind the idea.
I know people want answers. I appreciate that, okay? But this is an ongoing investigation. We don't have all the answers yet. So I appreciate that you want to try to push me to say something. I'm not going to get ahead of the investigators. I'm not going to get ahead of this investigation. I'm not going to create, storylines for you that don't match up with the facts as we know them right now, okay? So I'm not going to get into that. It is an area that is under investigation that is a major concern of ours.
Can you say if going back and research that this building has seen anything similar to this?
You know, Matt, that's a good question. I have
Whether
not,
it's in Cuba or anywhere else?
I'm not personally aware of that. I can certainly ask some of our folks who've been around for longer than I have about that. Let's see what I can
That
get
would
for
be
you.
pretty much everyone in the world.
I've been here 3 months now.
Not to be an insult. And then the last thing on this, you've seen the response or the statement that the Cuban government put out last night saying that it does not condone any, would not allow any kind of interference with foreign diplomats, and that it takes seriously and respects its Vienna Convention obligations. Do you accept that?
I would just say this about what you mentioned. We remain in regular contact with the Cuban government. They are providing some guidance, some assistance on this investigation as the investigation is underway. In that regular contact, we hope to resolve this matter in a satisfactory fashion, and let me just leave it at that, okay?
Right, but I just want to, do you take at face value when do you accept it that they respect? You made a big point yesterday of talking about the Vienna Convention and how Cuba has obligations under it to protect foreign diplomats.
and they talked about that, yeah, but
Right, and they say that they do, but
Yeah.
clearly you don't think that.
well, look, I think
They do.
U.S. government officials have been affected in some way by these incidents, physically affected by these incidents. It is the Cuban government's obligation under the Geneva Convention, under Vienna, thank you, under Vienna Conventions to ensure the safety and protection of our diplomats there.
But I think what you're saying is that despite the statement from last night, you're still not convinced.
They have an obligation to do that, and that obviously did not happen. Okay? Anything, are we done with Cuba?
Just
Okay.
going on that,
Yeah.
have staffing levels at the mission returned to the levels they were before the incidents came to light?
I can tell you this, that our embassy there in Havana is fully operational. It is fully staffed. They are still involved in business as a precaution and for concern and the well-being of our embassy staffers there. We've allowed a limited number of personnel to curtail their tours of duty, and what that can mean is that some of them can transfer posts, come home if they want, or try to go elsewhere.
Well, wait a second. If the embassy is fully staffed,
Yeah.
that means that however many number left, that you reciprocated by telling the Cubans that they had to get two out. If you're saying it's now fully staffed, can the Cubans bring their two guys back, or two diplomats back?
We brought our people home out of care and concern
I
for their
understand,
medical
but if they've been
well-being.
replaced and you're now fully staffed and you're back up at the number
Well,
of diplomats.
I don't know if that we're, this is where you guys want to get into the number of people at our embassies, and I'm not going to do that, as you know that. I mean, I don't know if we're down one or if we're up one in terms of our embassy personnel. That
Fully staffed.
fully
that
staffed means
suggests
we have people doing the
Heather,
jobs.
I understand that, but if you told the Cubans they had to lose two diplomats from their embassy here because, in a reciprocal manner, because you lost the two from.
I have never indicated
because
any
you
number.
you lost the number from there, and now you say it's fully staffed. That would suggest that however many people left from your embassy are now back.
Look, I'm not going to get down this
And that
rabbit
would-
hole of
and
numbers
that
of
would
people.
mean then
Yeah.
that it is no longer necessary for the Cuban embassy to be down
I'm
two
not
staffers.
going to draw that conclusion. We are open for
Well,
business.
this is pretty standard diplomacy.
We are, hold on, we are open for business. There are people there doing the work. If we're up one, down one, I'm not going to get into those kinds of details, okay? But just understand that the work is being done there, okay? Okay, we're done with this now, okay? Okay.
Has this acoustic harassment
Some,
stopped?
look, I'm not going to confirm or deny what you're saying. We had a lot of leading questions here today. This remains an ongoing investigation concern, and I'm not going to get into that any further. Okay, I'm done with Cuba right now. I've answered all that I can for you. Hold on. I've answered all that I can for you on Cuba. I know you still have questions. I'm not able to provide you all of the answers. Okay, investigation ongoing. Period. All right,
Heather, can we go to Cuba?
Let's move on. Go right ahead.
Okay,
Hi.
so CBS News has reviewed some of the medical records that a doctor had looked at in regards to American and Canadian diplomats in Cuba, and they were diagnosed with injuries as severe as traumatic brain injury. What's the State Department doing about that?
First of all, what has happened, and I'm not going to confirm the medical status of any U.S. government personnel in Cuba. You know that that's a policy where we don't talk about people's medical or health specifics. But what has happened there is of great concern to the U.S. government. The State Department, the White House, other agencies and departments involved as well. These are U.S. government employees that we're talking about. They were serving in an official capacity in Cuba. Those incidents have caused a variety of physical symptoms. I'm not going to have a whole lot to say about this. The investigation is still ongoing. It's an active investigation that is across multi-agencies in the United States. The State Department is a part of that. I had a briefing on this morning, talking with our top folks on this issue. Let me just reassure you that this is a matter that we take very seriously. We are working and have been working to provide our staff and U.S. government employees with the best medical attention that we can provide to them. Okay?
Do you know how many?
Pardon me?
Do you know how
I'm not
many
gonna,
were
I'm not going to
affected?
be able to confirm numbers of people who were affected. Sir, hold on one second, okay? I'm not going to be able to provide any numbers
And
that are
is this
affected.
type of attack unprecedented?
This is unprecedented. We have not seen this type of activity take place before.
Anywhere?
No, nowhere.
What
Nowhere.
is the U.S. doing, Heather? Can I
Yes.
just ask one
Yes,
question
of-
since
of-
you
no.
ignore this part of the room? I just want to
Hold
ask one
on,
question.
hold on. We have a little bit of a polite thing that we try to do here, okay?
Sure.
I know you haven't been around here a lot. You're welcome to come anytime, but we try to.
This is a briefing for all reporters, not just
Yes.
one reporter, right? And I would like
we
to ask
try
a
to be
question.
polite and work together nicely, okay?
Sure,
I'm more than
sure.
happy to take your questions as I have before.
Listen, how concerned is the State Department about these diplomats who, medical records show, have brain damage? Are there any that are still in Cuba that have been affected by this who have asked the State Department to leave?
So some we asked to leave because their condition necessitated that, and they left, wanted to, mutually agreed upon, left that country because of the situation, because of the symptoms that they were experiencing. There were others that have chosen to stay there, and some of them are still there. Does that answer your question?
It does, but I want to ask you, Does the U.S. Embassy have a current medical officer permanently based in Havana to address these incidents?
I know that we have had our U.S. government employees go to Miami, Florida, where some of them had been medically evacuated in order to receive medical treatment and testing.
But is there a medical officer at the embassy?
Could I finish what I'm saying? I also know that we have brought medical professionals to our staff in Cuba to be able to treat them, to be able to test them. The best equipment is not going to necessarily be on the ground in Cuba. We are bringing people to the best medical experts on the mainland in the United States. Is there an actual medical officer? I don't know the answer to that. I can look into that and see if I can get you an answer, okay?
Thank you.
Okay. Last question of the day. It is hot in here and we've got to go. Go ahead, Connor.
There was some reports as well that this started in December of 2016. Two questions, actually. Can you confirm whether or not these attacks are continuing to this day? And can you confirm whether or not there were any actions that were that the U.S. government took? Let me rephrase. Did the U.S. government not respond until February of this year?
The first reported activity took place in late December of 2016. That is correct. I've confirmed that here before. When these things started to come in, and I've talked about this before, people reported a variety of symptoms. Not everyone has experienced the same type of symptoms. So after the initial reports came in, then we started to get some other reports, and it took some time for people to be able to determine that, yes, there is a pattern taking place here. Yes, there is something going on. It's much like, I would liken it to if you have an illness and you kind of maybe, you mention it to a colleague, you mention it to a doctor, but you don't think anything of it. The doctor hears about somebody else who has maybe a different kind of symptom. It may not all be put together at the same time and say, aha, this must be it. It takes some time for that information to come in. But since that information started coming in, we take this very seriously. Safety and security of Americans, which obviously includes U.S. government officials and employees who are there on business, is a huge priority for us, and we're trying to get them all the care that they need. Okay, guys, we gotta go. Gotta leave it at that. Thank you. Connor, go right ahead.
Yeah. So yesterday you said that the State Department had brought medical professionals down to the staff in Havana. I'm wondering if you can say whether or not one of those doctors was one of the Americans who has been injured by the activity.
I am not aware of that. I'm not aware of that at all. This is the first I'm hearing of that.
So it's exclusively U.S. diplomatic personnel who have been injured and have these symptoms.
My understanding is that, the people who experienced these symptoms were U.S. government employees who were there working for the U.S. government. Okay.
And then just as well, I've heard from some senior officials here that Cuba has been responsive to the U.S. request for an investigation. Would you say that the Cubans have been working with the U.S. on the investigation? Or is that an overcharacterization?
I don't know. Responsive, working with,
But it's not a joint investigation with the two.
I don't believe it's a joint investigation. The U.S. government is investigating this. We have multiple agencies and departments who are involved in this and take it extremely seriously. You know, we were talking about this yesterday. This is something that we have not experienced in the past. We are working very hard to try to take care of our folks who are there. You know, they're on official duty and trying to provide them all the care and the treatment and the support that they would need.
And then just one last question. I'd asked yesterday, but you ran out of time. Can you say whether or not the attacks are ongoing still?
I was briefed on this both yesterday and today, and I was told that the incidents are not ongoing at this point. Okay. I do have some news, which I know some of you will be very interested in hearing about this. I want to mention that I have an update for you on this, on the number of people who have been affected. We have not provided that information in the past. We only now have the confirmation of the number of Americans who have been affected by this. We can confirm that at least 16 U.S. government employees, members of our embassy community, have experienced some kind of symptoms. They have been provided medical treatment in the United States. as well as in Cuba. We take this situation extremely seriously. We are trying to provide them the help, the medical care, the treatment, and the support that they need and the support that they deserve.
Can I follow
I
up on that?
know, we'll have a lot of questions about this. And I don't have a ton of information, but
Well, when you
I'll give you
said-
what I can.
Does that include spouses at all?
My
Maybe.
understanding is all the, you know what,
They come under chief of mission authority, but are they all actually?
you know what? Let me check on that for you, because I just got this information as I was coming out here, and I don't have that in front of me, so let me find out if these were all actually employees, or if some of these are family members. Can we check on that while we're in here, and see if we can get you that information before the briefing ends? Andrew?
When you said that that there were no more, that they're no longer experiencing the symptoms, was it?
I'm sorry, did I say no longer experiencing the symptoms? I
No,
think
no,
the incidents.
the incidents.
incidents are no longer occurring.
Does that mean that something was found or something in these buildings was intermediated? I mean, how do you know that it's no longer an issue? Was there some physical object or
To my knowledge,
discovery?
nothing, last I heard, nothing has been, nothing has been identified as, here is a piece of equipment, for example.
And can you update us on the report? CBS had a report of brain damage, according to a doctor treating at least one employee. I'm not sure about the numbers. Have you anything further to suggest,
I can't
quote,
confirm,
brain damage?
I can't confirm any of that. I can't confirm that CBS report. And we would never give information about the health status of one of the Americans.
And for all the 16 that you mentioned,
Yeah.
are they all out of country now, or are some still?
No, I believe that some of them are still there.
When you say at least 16, could that number climb?
All I have is, and again, this is information that I got just as I was coming out here, at least 16 members. That number
Sure.
could change.
Can you say anything on the record about what you think happened to them at this point?
Well, we've talked about this before. I
Do you
think,
have any new information you
no,
can share on
I
that?
don't. I don't have anything new for you. What I've said in the past, that these incidents started taking place late in 2016, that we know our Americans started experiencing some symptoms, started reporting them into embassy personnel. We started investigating, and eventually we, got to this point. Okay. All right. Hi.
Sorry if I
Hi.
had missed this, but there are also reports that these same victims of attack had also had cars vandalized, homes broken into, pets poisoned. Can you confirm that these same individuals were harassed in different ways?
Yeah, I don't have any information on that for you in particular. As a general matter, I know that various governments have seen that kind of behavior from the Cuban government in the past, but again, we're not assigning responsibility at this point. We don't know who the perpetrator was of these incidents. That is why I want to be firm and say, because I've seen some misreporting on this, the investigation is ongoing. The investigation is ongoing, and we will continue to try to find the source of these incidents and the perpetrator.
Just to button up the answer to Andrea's question. So if we haven't found a device and we don't know who did it, and we're talking about symptoms that are not like ow, no longer ow, we're talking about things that developed over time. How do we know that this isn't ongoing?
How do we know that it's not? Because we talk with our staff and we talk with the medical professionals.
And what percentage of the embassy family are 16?
Matt asked that question. I said, we'll see if I can get you something on that. I don't know. Again, this information was just given to me as I was coming out here, so let me try to see what I can get for you. I may not be able to provide you an answer, but I will do my best to do that.
And the U.S. government employees, are they all U.S. citizens?
Yes.